two stories remain as unbeatens collide for the title.
Could it get any more dramatic?
Jim Harbaugh and the Wolverines are looking to finish the mission, while Michael Penix Jr. and the Huskies hope to write their perfect ending.
The final chapter, and the stakes couldn't be higher.
A new playoff champion will be crowned. The College Football Playoff National Championship. Number 1 Michigan versus number 2 Washington. Monday at 7:30 Eastern on ESPN.
Back with the 2024 first edition of the Keeping Current with Kansas City podcast. This is Thad Bell from the Kansas City Soccer Journal, and with me I have Daniel Sperry, who, were you drinking there? Were you drinking something?
I was drinking water.
Okay. I just saw some
It's
bottle
water.
go up in the air, man. Okay. I'm not criticizing you if you were drinking. I was just going to question.
It's dry January, sir. Start off the new year with nothing in hopes of better health benefits. I don't know. We'll see.
Okay.
We're going for it. New year, new me, right? Hashtag New Year's resolution. It's great to be back, Dad.
It is. You want
Kind
a very short joke?
Give me the shortest joke you got possible besides me.
Stationary store moves.
Ooh, that's good.
I have a shorter one, but I don't think I can say it on this podcast.
Let's save it for was it Keeping Current Unfiltered or something like that?
Yeah.
It ain't gonna be much different. So
Very true. Sober or imbibing. I'm really the same, sadly.
Oh boy. Well,
All right. Current
a lot's
news.
happened.
Current news. They have a new player.
They do have a new player that's over the age of 18 years old. It's incredible. Yeah.
That sounds worse when you say it that way.
That sounds well, okay. They've all they have signed is children, academy kids, academy youngsters, not in their academy, whatever. Anyways, all they had signed up until this point was under 18 players, and we have the signing of Temwa Chawinga. I don't have it in front of me, so please forgive me for butchering it.
Temwa Chawinga.
Yeah, I was correct. Okay, good.
That's going by pronunciation guide that's in the email that I finally got 12 hours after it was originally sent out.
Hey, man, as someone who works in their day job with an e-marketing thing, sometimes there's server issues, and we've had this happen where the email goes out to half of the newsletter. We have 37,000 people on our newsletter list. I assume the Currents press release list is much smaller than that, but we have 37,000 people on our email list that go out for all of our releases of my day job every Friday. And we have people that will tell us on Saturday or Sunday that they did not get what was sent on Friday at noon. So sometimes it happens the way it is, and it's frustrating, but I get it. I understand.
I get that. I worked in IT.
perspective,
I get that. I worked in IT, but for
stupid,
3 years now, I
frustrating.
thought they didn't send emails out for 12 hours after they existed. So I thought they just didn't send them out until like at least the middle of the afternoon at the earliest.
Anyways, yeah, Temwa Chawinga. Her sister Tabitha, is a stud at Paris Saint-Germain women's club in France. They dominated in England in the Champions League when they beat Manchester United and knocked Mark Skinner, former Orlando Pride head coach, out of the Champions League in the qualifying stage. Anyways, on to Temwa. Insane goal scoring record, right? It's the leading goal scorer in the world in professional soccer this year, both men and women. I mean, if you just look at the numbers, the goal scoring record for her is pretty insane. Between Sweden, which is a very legitimate league to be playing in, and China, a more dubious league, but at the same time, 83 goals in 84 games and in somewhere is a lot of flipping goals. So it'll be interesting, man. I when I first heard the name, I was like, what is this? And then I looked further into it and I was like, this might be really interesting. So
It will be interesting. I hope good. Well, it'll. I
Yeah,
mean, I have positive vibes on this because I just don't want to be doubtful. That's a lot of goals,
yeah,
and while China may not be the highest league in the world, but I don't think they're as bad as maybe we think at
hmm
times.
correct.
Her sister came out of there with
Yeah,
less goals
hmm
and has done really well.
yeah,
So
and I think like looking at some of the goals that I've seen her score, there's a lot of scrappy finishes, as there is just in the women's game. Rebounds, sometimes bad goalkeeping. The majority of the shots that I have seen, though, I feel like they were placed and taken well. There's power behind the shots. Um, my biggest thing is I think this is a team that's going to create a lot of chances. There's a lot of creativity. There's a lot of flair on this team. Chances will get created, and I think for large parts of the season last year, we were questioning who the heck was putting him away. If it wasn't Dabinia, it didn't seem like it was anyone else for a while. And I think that if she can finish the chances that are created for her, that's the biggest thing. She won't be asked to create the chances. She just needs to finish the ones that she gets. And if she does that, I think there's a bright future for her within the team and within the league. But doing so at the time that she will have to finish is much shorter in the NWSL. The goalkeepers are at a higher level in the NWSL. The defenders are not going to allow some of the spaces to shoot as much in the NWSL. So I think, of course, with any foreign player coming over, there's a bit of an adjustment period. But at the same time, I also think like uh, if you score 83 goals in 84 games, to me, I think you can finish a lot of chances that are in front of you, right?
you would think so. I mean, maybe not 83 out of 84 games in the NWSL, but you should be able to score some. Yes.
Yeah.
It's a high over or under who gets more, her or Mimi.
Yeah, that's a good
Wait,
question.
is that mean?
And no, I mean, I don't think it's mean. Um, I think I think that's the player that you're putting. I think you're like that's fighting for minutes there, in my opinion. Like unless they go out and get another striker, to me, Christian Hamilton, Michelle Cooper, probably the two that I would think, depending on what the Blocko and the new coaching staff choose to do. They, do they do they play one up there? Okay, so I would assume she's probably behind whoever that is in the pecking order. But I think it's between her and Mimi for that next up spot in a way. So, be interesting.
I know it gives them a lot of options, whichever way it goes. I know that she is pretty speedy, and I know that she can play wing or the nine.
Yep.
I don't know if it's a right wing or a left wing, or both, but I know she can play wing or nine, and that
Mhm.
will depend on who else they have available, whether
Yep.
there may be additions or not.
Yeah, and I think too, like I don't I forgot I was gonna say. It wasn't important.
Okay. I mean, that's a pretty sad
Ignore
thing
me.
to say when
Just
you want
keep
people to
going.
listen to you on a pod is, oh, that's not
I
important.
think, well, if it was important, I would have remembered. Um, Goodness gracious, Daniel. Isn't that
All right.
brutal?
Wing, center, who might be there in front of her or
I
competing for
did.
that
Oh, here it
spot.
is. I didn't think that the attacking group, the attackers, the forwards group was a place that needed an addition. So I wonder, does that mean there is a departure that we don't know about that will eventually come? Um, who knows? I and that is not me educatedly, hinting at things. That's just a wonder. Like, I mean, at some point, they're the roster, they will go into camp with a roster larger than 26 and the max amount of players on it, and they will have to cut that down.
Yep.
And at the end of camp, that might include somebody who's been on the team for a while, or that might include somebody who is traded out for more opportunities elsewhere. Who knows?
And then the other factor is she would retake an international slot, and I don't think they have any extra at the moment if everybody is healthy.
Wrecked. Um, Obviously, as we have seen within Major League Soccer, you can go get a green card and you can become no longer a quote international player. And I think as the NWSL grows, I think that process, there's two things going to happen. Clubs are going to start getting more international players that have green cards and getting them green cards quicker, or they're just going to add more international slots. And that is, I think either of those two possibilities are the reason why when I asked, the current don't seem to be panicking about their international roster spots at the moment.
No, but they didn't last year when they had too many of them, and some of that was because they were on season-ending injuries. So
Yeah.
that still could be the issue, and we don't know these things because they don't reveal those things. I do agree that they should give it more international slots, especially in expansion years. I do. It's a personal belief of mine. They should stop the expansion draft and give allocation money and international slots out to those expansion teams to
Yep.
as trade.
Yeah. Sure.
That way, you can add a few players and add some cash, and it all benefits the entire league, not just the two expansion teams.
Correct.
All right, we solved that problem for the NWSL. They can call us later for anything else they need.
How about fixing the new transfer fee uh net spend cap thing that they've got going on?
Yeah, what is it? 500,000?
It's 500,000. I don't like there's not very many. I think I saw earlier, like of course, transfer market, whatever. In men's game, we know we can like halfway take it as truth, but it is decent for like a fair ballpark figure evaluation, right? Of like if this player is worth this much, then these players must be worth about this much. Caroline Graham Hansen, who plays for Barcelona, fantastic right winger, one of the best players in the world, was listed at like her market value is like 450K. Um, I so like not very many transfers um are like we're not spending $1 million transfer fees in women's soccer yet um
No.
or within the NWSL. So I think for now, I think that's a fair thing to ask. If you're going to spend $1 million in transfer fees, you're going to be getting a lot of players in doing so. However, on the other end, you need to offset that. So um the league competitive level doesn't strange apart. I don't know. In a way, it's another added layer to uh this like the salary cap thing, and I don't love it, but right now I don't think that the spend is there for that number to be like, oh, how dare you hold teams
Yeah.
to that.
Okay, give them kudos because they have simplified the overall cap numbers. There's no longer a buy allocation money, which I don't know if everybody's had a chance to review this. I'll probably actually post something about this later before I post the pod. But they upped the overall salary. They removed the allocation money that you could purchase because last year it was 1,375,000, I believe, and then 600,000 in allocation money you could buy. They just jumped right over that, said no more allocation money to buy, but the entire thing is 2,700,000. I
Yeah.
had this pulled up just a second ago. Damn it. Yeah, 2,750,000. So that upped essentially by 800,000, something like that. 775,000, the overall money that could be spent, and more to everybody, teams that even didn't want to spend the extra money. So it's all there. They can spend more money. Could be why there's been a flood of free agents recently going to one team. Maybe they had a lot of allocation money stored up.
Yeah. Yeah. Who knows?
But I
I
do
mean,
think that
I know
will,
the current had a ton of allocation money stored up, which is what led to them adding Dabinia um in the middle of everything that they did last year. And they even keeping some of the players on the roster that they did that never played that were probably high dollar people. Those are all things you can do when you have a lot of allocation money. Is some of that wise? No, but I mean, the current pretty much had a pretty good stockpile allocation money that they'd accrued to the point when they dipped into do the big Dabinia contract and all that kind of stuff. So to make themselves under the salary cap. But I think this is a better way forward in the future and a less confusing way forward in the future. Much more so than Major League Soccer has done in their nearly double and like 2.5x times of existence.
Yeah, that's it it sometimes gets simplified by MLS, but usually if it does, they find another way to throw some other weird wrinkle into it so that it's
Yep.
barely more simplified. I understand why they have complex mechanisms, but I don't have to like it. Other things that they did related party transaction for teams that have owners of multiple teams, and some changes to the under 18 mechanism allow them to have four of them. I think that may be because the current are trying to collect a whole classroom full of players.
Sorry, I was muted for a second. My child has escaped from her bedroom, um, which I thought she was asleep. This is fun. This is the life of parenting podcasts, parenting and podcasting at 9 p.m. Why is she awake?
I don't know. Do you need to take a break and go get her?
I don't think so.
You can put her on the podcast, but I'm not sure how much relevant knowledge she has of the NWSL salary mechanisms. But then again,
She's
nobody does.
at the moment she would just talk to you about unicorns and maybe the pizza that she ate tonight.
I think we can maybe use that in a different segment. All right. Other news that came out today, the day that we were recording, was Chardonnay Coran got a new team. Former KC Current.
Yep, it is not AFC like everybody thought it would be.
Amazing how everybody thought that would happen that way.
I guess when you date a player that was sent to Bay FC, you would think that um, that they would end up in the same place, but I don't know. Um, Maybe Bay FC had different ideas about what they wanted to do in their midfield. And Chicago Red Stars is I don't mean this to be a slight on Chardonnay, but they're desperate for players at this point. They've had a lot go, and they've had not a lot come in terms of players, and so I think it does offer Char a fresh start in a place that I think will
She'll have an
definitely
opportunity to play.
she's going to have an opportunity to play. And I thought we all talked, right? We both believe she was much better in year one than she was year two. Just didn't quite fit into what the current wanted to do in year two.
And that could a lot just be the coach's choice.
Correct. And just remember who was on the staff there at Chicago Red Stars, Ella Masser, who was on
Yep.
the staff with as the main assistant to Potter in Char's first year. So yeah, I think I think there's connections there. And I think for the most part, I think it'll be um a positive place for her to be. And like we said, an opportunity for playing time, which if you're kind of in where she is in her career, I think the playing time is incredibly important to her and what she wants to do. I think she felt at times that she should have been played more and used differently too around here in ways that she wasn't. And so, um, you go to a place that needs you to be in that role, then good on you. And so, you know, hope she does well there. And hope
Yeah.
she, kind of breaks out into the player that I think at times we saw glimpses and flashes that she could be.
Yeah, definitely her first year, I thought that she was, poised for a breakout that second year. And again, I don't know if it was the coach didn't favor her for whatever reason. Sometimes that happens. It's always the player's fault. But I also think that when she did get opportunities last season, she didn't take them. So that maybe she didn't get in the right rhythms or whatever. But I do hope that she does well in Chicago, except when we don't want her to.
Sure. I personally am not a fan, so I do not root for success. I just root for the stories.
I do have players that I like.
Sure.
I do have players that I don't like. I admit that. I do feel that I am objective when I report on them and write about them, though.
I agree. I believe you are too.
So,
This is
man,
what happens. This is what happens when we haven't uh this is what happens when we haven't potted in a while. It
no,
just
it happens when we have potted in a while, Daniel. The only difference is I have not got to give you a lot of grief for about a month.
it's and I have not been able to pester you for about a month. So
Yeah, which is probably good. So I apologize to anybody who's listening to this, but this is Daniel and I give each other crap.
we have 1 month a year where we don't see each other 5 times a week. So it's probably this is what happens.
Yeah, it's well, it'll start back up again here in a couple weeks. So I'm sure
Yeah.
teams start reporting, going off because
Uh,
current, I believe, like the end of this month, right?
yeah, currently the
Sporting
end
at
of
the end of
this
this
month,
month.
sporting in 2 weeks. Well, now at this point, a week from Sunday or a week from Saturday.
So the other
Crazy.
news around the league, I mean, we kind of jokingly mentioned a team buying a lot of players.
Yeah.
Gotham,
Um, Gotham, Roosevelt, Crystal Dunn, Tierna Davidson, Emily Sonnet, all in free agency. Um, Impressive.
expensive, I'm sure.
Yeah. Good job from y'all, Averbuch West, to kind of pull that off. Gotham, I think for a while being a large market, of course, I think we can all agree that for some reason in MLS and in NWSL, the large markets are largely untapped into. Outside of LA does a good job, but in New York, um, has in MLS has soccer, like both the professional soccer teams have won championship in like 25 years of pro men's soccer there. Um, New York had Western New York Flash and all that kind of stuff beforehand, but this is a team in New York City. They have had a few star players there in and out, but even then they fill maybe 4 or 5,000 into Red Bull Arena every week. You add the star power that is now there. Um, I think you're going to have a pretty full RBA every single time out now. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to want to go watch that and will go watch the national team players. And I'm sure every NWSL team has seen the national team player, attendance bump when they're in stadiums that are kind of larger than what their regular fan base does. And I think that'll hopefully for Gotham they sees a a better attendance and more people kind of fold into the diehard aspect of the game. Because I think Gotham fans at the diehard level do a good job of dieharding, but there's not very many of them because for the longest time, Gotham really hasn't captured the imagination of the soccer fan in New York. And I think now that's kind of changing. So they get the championship. They made a couple of trades and moves last season to get more high profile players in there with Lynn Williams and Esther from Spain coming over. And, now you combine all this national team star power up the spine of the team. Got good players on the wide spaces now too, with Jenna Nyswanger and Midge Purse and all of them, and it's a really, really, really good roster, really good starting 11. But it'll be interesting to see if the fact that how much they've spent on these players affects the bottom end of the roster, and in the long term, they don't have the depth that really got them through large parts of last season too.
Yeah, because they will be missing players for various competitions. That'll be a struggle when they have that. Um, again, we saw between 22 and 2023, the current were the team that won the offseason by bringing in big name players, but then that fairly well backfired with both Morgan Gautrat and Vanessa DiBernardo.
Yep.
And the year before that with Sam Ewis and Lynn Williams.
Mhm.
Again, I'm not wishing anybody to be hurt, but Rose Lavelle has a serious injury history, so that's one that I would probably question the most. The rest of them,
So does Tierna Davidson.
yeah,
So, I think those are I don't and I don't question what Gotham wants to do because I think if you're a fan of any team, you want to see your team go out and do the best that they spend the most that they can and be the best to try and compile the best possible group of players that they can. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think of, we were talking with other people, there's a lot of NWSL teams who have been assembled with some insane star power on it that have never won championships. You think of some of the Reign squads, you think of some of Orlando Pride did that. I don't think they ever won a championship with Alex Morgan and the rest of the crew that they had on their roster. So I think there's a lot of um, intrigue here in Gotham doing the Gotham thing, which is to do their best to grab headlines, and we'll see what happens with it on the field. It'll be interesting because for a team that was so deep and so able to find production in their depth, now there's going to be 4 or 5 players now that are without starting minutes that might want to go elsewhere, that might be unaffordable for them, might have to go elsewhere. So, I think that those are the things that I think about, and I'm just, curious to see what happens with those players over the next few weeks and months and days, and because I really do think it's going to be interesting to see how they keep it all together, because I don't know that they can and be successful.
It will be difficult. I do have a belief in Y'all. So
Hmm.
she's
And
she's an old
Juan,
friend of here. So
Juan Carlos Amorós is a good coach. He's done well pretty much everywhere he's been. Um, Even with Houston, he did have the loss to the Current in the playoffs when he was the head coach in Houston. However, uh, as we have seen over the last 2, 3 years with the Dash, he is the only coach who has actually gotten the best out of most of that team. So it'll be interesting. And even then, it's not like this Gotham team ran the table last year. They were
no,
sixth. They scraped into the playoffs. Um,
they
they
got
had
better as they went
goals.
along. They got better as they went along.
Hmm. And for a while they were up top, and I mean, you remember here, but they were here against the Current back in like April or May last year, and the Current I thought were turning the tide before they really skidded out for a while. Um, the Current played them off the field. I mean, they were nowhere near the level of the Current that Gotham team was, and they ended up winning the championship. And the Current finished 11th and never really actually turned it around. So.
Yeah, I think they were missing a couple of key players then, and they were. But anyway, yeah,
Mm, mm,
we'll see. All right, with our few minutes we have left before you need to probably go to bed, we need to discuss what holes are left in the Kansas City roster.
do we? Well, defensive mid is an area that I think needs to be addressed.
I think everybody thinks that needs to be addressed.
Does Vlaco think that needs to be addressed?
You know,
That's a
as
great
much as I
question.
like Vlaco, if he doesn't think that needs to be addressed in some way, shape, or form, I will have lost a wee bit of faith in him.
I think I think they're targeting there. I would like to believe that they were in on Sonnet as well. Uh, it seems the Gotham poll has won out in that aspect, um, with a couple of those free agents. But I think in the long run, the defensive mid, I think for me is one area that absolutely needs to get bolstered. You need a second goalkeeper. I don't know what they're dealing with Cassie Miller at the moment. Cassie has not been signed by anyone yet. So I assume the next couple of weeks we'll see if Cassie signs elsewhere, or if the Current choose to allow her to find a starting spot elsewhere, and um, keep on with AD Franch, and Solkowitz being the number two. Solkowitz has been great for Brisbane in the A League. Obviously, different game, little bit different level in the NWSL, but I think she'd be pretty good, pretty worth the time to be a number two. So then, do you draft someone else in behind her? Do you, what do you do with that third goalkeeper spot? Um, that's, we're not talking go get a starting goalkeeper, but for me, D mid, another goalkeeper, another outside back, which could be done in the draft. Um, but I think if you're looking at the biggest position, that I think that they need impact player wise, it's defensive mid, without a doubt.
Yeah, and I don't even call it impact player wise, but a solid starter, if nothing else. You
Yeah.
have you have several players that can play around that spot, but not really that spot as a complete starter. When they lost Loera, I don't know that we'll ever see Desi back. I don't. I have I know Gatraw can play there and was good in her life at that point, but I hate to be a doubter, but until I see some of those players back in healthy, I'm just going to count them as not being available.
Yeah, that's fair.
Um,
Um,
that position has put me in a solid attitude towards players that were previously here too. So
yeah. Um, let's see. I have another. Who do you play? Who do you try and go get?
that I don't know, man. I honestly don't. Um, I've looked through the list there and I can't find who I would really want to make a move on that's still available. Who would you do?
You know, just because she played there, with San Diego a little bit. Emily Van Egmond, I think, would be an interesting player in that spot. I know for Australia, she plays a little bit more creative, but Van Egmond played deeper on the field and was really good at the start of the season. A little bit of injury stuff, was really good in the World Cup, was really good for Australia, and then was pretty good when she came back from the World Cup for the Wave as they went on to be a very good defensive team as well as be a very good team down the stretch that eventually won the Shield. Um, so I'd be interested to see if like if you're going the free agent route, I think for me Van Egmond might be the player that you look for that can play as kind of like a deeper line playmaker in a way. Um, It's not going to be like for like Alex Loeta. Um, but I don't know. That might be the main midfielder that I would think of in that role. That's left in free agency. The next level would be do they go out internationally and go get somebody, um, or whatnot. But yeah,
And buy some international slots.
I'll have to keep doing that.
They might. Yeah, because that's where I thought was going somewhere internationally. Because I know, I mean, Blanco's obviously scouted a lot of teams in his
Yeah.
time with the national team. So,
Yep. Well,
uh,
where does a
yeah,
Temwa Ch Chawinga no signing come from? It comes from having
Temwa.
a pretty well having a pretty good uh international
Of
gauge.
course, that's a high profile enough. I don't want to say high profile signing, but it's one that probably pops up just because of the number of goals. So, I mean,
Yes.
I would love to give him credit for that, or even Cammy, but I have to think that that's a situation where, oh, hey, did you hear about this person that just scored 83 goals in 84 games? Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure some agent is putting that out there, if nothing else. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that. But he's been magnificent in the drafts in the past years. So
Mhm.
problem is he doesn't have a first rounder now. So
Great.
all right.
Again.
Anything else we need to try to clear up in the next couple minutes?
No,
No?
I mean, we can solve world hunger. I think we've talked enough about what we think.
Very true. Let us know what you anybody who listens gets in this far. I'm probably sorry that you got in this far at this point.
Congratulations, you made it to the end. You deserve a prize. We don't have any. If you want to sponsor us, we can give a prize to people who listen all the way through to the podcast. Hit up Thad or me.
Yeah, we'll accept sponsorships for the pod, or any of the other pods that I am involved in, or the website Kansas City Soccer Journal, kcsoccerjournal.com. You don't need to sponsor the Star because if you read them, you probably already sponsor them by paying them.
Correct. Thank you for paying my freelancer checks.
And as much as I give Daniel crap and sometimes the Star and some other people, I do appreciate that Mr. Sperry is out there covering soccer because of the other people that have sometimes done newspapers covering soccer in the world, they have not always been as caring and diligent about doing so. So, Mr. Sperry, I will give you some nice credit and kudos at the beginning of this year.
That is the nicest thing you have said about me, and I expect to never hear anything at that level again for the rest of the year.
I don't think that this is the only time I've spoken nicely about you. I just think I balance it out quite a bit. All right. Thank you for listening. Kansas City Current and this new stadium. I've been in it. It looks pretty nice. People drive by it. It looks pretty nice. We will see you there in, well, we don't know exactly when that will happen, but we will see you there.
Some point between, I would assume, some point in March.
Let's hope so.
Because if they do April, then you're waiting the first 3 weeks and then 2 weeks for the international break. So 5 weeks of the year without having a game there, I think would be quite crazy. But it's the end of the show. Never know.
Right. Anyway, thanks everybody for listening. We are out.